a lot to talk about. You're doing some amazing things in connectivity protocols and the things that are managing edge devices and analyzing the data. So let's talk about how the IoT in general is growing. And you're pretty bullish on this market. So let's talk about what you think, why things are going where they are, why they're headed, and what your thought is right now.
Sure, Peggy. And you're right. This is a great market to be in. Globally, depending on which study you believe in, about 10 to 15% of industrial assets globally are connected. And, just moving that window to 30, 40% is like a decade's worth of work. So there's a huge potential out there around getting all of these industrial assets connected and driving back the standard applications that we all talk about against productivity, quality, energy enhancements, and predictive maintenance and the like back to the industry. So we are definitely very bullish about it.
So why would it be, when you talk about discrete, which is automotive, those kind of things that have been there, the PLC side of things, versus the process side, which is food and beverage, pulp and paper, why is there a difference between the discrete side and the process industries in adopting the Internet of Things? What makes those two types of industries in manufacturing different in their adoption of the Internet of Things?
Great question, Peggy. And, sometimes the evolution is a function of how much legacy you already have. And the discrete industry hadn't really done too much digitization in terms of getting machine data out of machines and making them available for process enhancement. So because there was a bigger, dire need in some of these industries, they went ahead and kind of jumped the curve, and IoT being at the rise price. Previously they were priced out of a lot of these things because deploying a historian, for example, which is a standard in the process industry, isn't really cost effective when you talk of discrete industries like automotive, right? So the fact that they were acutely aware of not having these control systems and feedback loops in place meant that they jumped the boat immediately when they became available at price points and deployment efficiencies that were useful and meaningful to them. So that's really been more of it. And then, of course, now it's a more secular wave. We are seeing pretty much every vertical adopt it significantly.
Does it make a difference, because you just discussed between process versus discrete, does it make a difference between, we talk about everybody really having an eye on this space. Does it make a difference between the very large Fortune 500 companies to the small companies versus that might be in oil and gas, large, what we just described, really big companies, to the very small companies who want and are monitoring, remote assets and solutions like that? Does it matter?
So, the value derived changes drastically, right? So, for example, a Fortune 20 company that we work with, they are looking at monitoring some of their supply chain capabilities and assets and, the utilization of that. They are projecting hundreds of millions of dollars by taking this across 200 to 300 of their units, right? So in that sense, obviously the quantum of ROI is larger with a larger company. But having said that, the fundamentals of the technology and the deployment are pretty much the same. So what is great about this particular wave of industrial IoT is that the smallest machine shop that you can imagine having 10 or 20 machines has access to the same technology that, the Fortune 100 company has. And this is, a big revolution if you think of in terms of how traditionally these companies have had access to technology. So the access to technology is, available across the board. It's, of course, the impact depends on how large a facility you have.
Are there limitations that they have to worry about based on size or vertical market that we're talking about, segmentation?
So I think, when we talk of limitations, I would kind of look at it with a different flavor, Peggy, if you could. One is when you talk of analytics, and that is really the key leverage that we have here, right? Getting all this machine data in and be able to apply the modern analytics like machine learning and things like that for better predictive maintenance type of solutions. The challenge really is and always has been the quality of the data that you collect? Is the failure data available? So these challenges are similar no matter which the size of the companies or the verticals that they operate in, because there hasn't been a history of collecting this data with the analytics in mind. So where a platform company like ours steps in is providing that standardized mechanism so that you start collecting data right now, and within a year or two you have enough of a digital footprint to be able to create these models that are actually accurate, or at least providing 70-80% accuracy with respect to some of the predictive models that are out there. So the constraint is in terms of walking the journey, where you are joining this journey in. If you've already been doing a great job of collecting this, it just accelerates everything. But more often than not, that is not the case.